Hey everyone, I'm going to demonstrate the new expansion for the Leaving Earth card game by Joseph Fatula. It's called Leaving Earth: The Outer Planets, and it was available for pre-order back in early May of 2016. The expansion takes you up through 1986, and um, if you're looking right here, the from Earth to Ceres and Mars, this is the base game. The expansion adds all of this, the outer planets, the gas giants, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus, and a lot of their moons. So it can be played cooperatively. It can be played as a teaching game. There's some math, but it's not overwhelming. Addition, subtraction, multiplication is all you need. So elementary math, although that hasn't stopped the math from preventing me from accomplishing my goals sometimes. And it also plays competitively very well. So it's an interesting game design that can be equally enjoyable both competitively and solitaire, but it also has a cooperative component, which is pretty interesting that the game plays well in all three of those game modes. One other just thing I'll mention that I really like to do that adds a little more theme to the game is that you can see on the extended calendar here, it goes from 1956 to 1986, so 30 years. I like to fire up Pandora and play the greatest hits from that year while I'm taking that year's game turn. It's a lot of fun to listen to hear how the music has progressed and changed and actually really been influenced by space exploration. You can really hear it quite a bit, even in the greatest hits. So that's kind of a fun thing to do if you're going to sit down and play it solitaire. If you look on page 2, you can see there's the game setup of the various locations. The expansion carries the same game mechanic of unexplored locations. So destinations like Jupiter, Io, Neptune, any of the actual planets, Saturn or their moons, Titan, can be explored. And there's a new probe in the game. I believe it's the Galileo probe. Some of the locations are going to require you to survey it with a more advanced probe. You need to decide, just like the base game, whether you're going to play an easy, normal, hard, or a very hard version of the game. You don't draw very many mission cards from the base game, but some of the outer planet missions aren't revealed until you explore that location. And different missions have different point values. So if you were to play a normal game, any of the outer planet missions that had a difficulty higher than 13 points, you would remove from the game before you shuffle the cards and draw your missions. So let me start with the base game missions, and we're going to play a hard game. No, let's play very hard because the setup's a little bit easier. In a very hard game, we're only going to draw one easy mission. So we'll shuffle up the easy cards here, and we'll just draw one of them. So there's our easy mission, Lunar Survey. Not too bad. Now in a very hard game, we need two medium missions. And I am playing with the Mercury expansion to the base game, so there are some additional mission cards that could show up here as well. Okay, so two mediums. We have a lunar sample return. I kind of like it when I can focus on one location. Look at that, and a Ceres lander. Those kind of have the same color scheme. I thought that was another lunar mission. And we only draw one hard mission from the base game. I always like the extraterrestrial life mission, but that is going to be a tough one if we draw it because there's so many different locations we would have to explore to rule out the possibility of extraterrestrial life. I got a Ceres sample return. So far, I can focus on the moon and Ceres and focus just on those two locations and complete most of my base game missions. Now for the very hard game, we want 6 non-explorable missions from the outer planets. The outer planet missions have several different backs. The non-explorable ones have a back that looks like this. And I'm just going to draw out 6 of those. So we have Jupiter Survey, Uranus Survey, Titan Survey, the Jupiter Solar System, which is to reveal Jupiter and all of its moons, the Enceladus survey, which is to reveal the Enceladus location, and the Neptune survey. So you can see most of these non-explorable outer mission cards look like they're surveys. When we get to those locations and reveal that location, so for example, when we reveal Titan, there's a Titan deck of mission cards. Some of them have an alpha on their back, some of them have a beta, and some of them have both an alpha and a beta symbol. So when we reveal the Titan location, when we explore Titan over here, that Titan location that we chose randomly is either going to be alpha or beta or both. So we will, at that point, shuffle and draw and reveal one of the Titan mission cards based on the Titan location. So we won't know what the Titan mission is until we've revealed Titan. And that put you in a bit of a tight spot because if you look at the time it would take to get to Titan, so we can go from Earth directly to Earth orbit, and from Earth orbit to the inner planet's transfer is going to take 1 year. Then we're going to usually go from the inner planet's transfer to do a Venus flyby so we can get a slingshot out into the outer planets. The outer planets transfer from Venus flyby only takes a year if we do the slingshot. So 1 year to inner planets, 1 year to Venus flyby, 1 year to Jupiter flyby, and from Jupiter flyby we can, if the calendar and the launch windows line up, we can get to a Saturn flyby in another 2 years. Once we're at the Saturn flyby, we can only get to Titan orbit from Saturn orbit. So Saturn orbit has an optional time marker. Let's assume we're trying to get there in a hurry, so we're not going to use the time. Although it's nice if you have the ion thruster, you can use the optional time there. And from Saturn orbit, Titan orbit also has optional time. If the launch windows line up, once we reveal Titan and we know what the mission is, it's going to take us another 5 game years to get back to Titan to do something else. And if you want to try to plan ahead and send people and explorer payloads and Galileo probes and kind of a little bit of everything, you're bringing a lot of mass that you may or may not use. There's 8 to be revealed location specific missions, and I'm just going to set them aside in alphabetical order so I can find them easier, and we'll pull those up if and when we get to those locations in the game. We actually get a 5th spacecraft in the expansion and a new token, which is much needed. Now that we have the mission cards, we'd want to add these up and see how many of these we need. Now the other thing that makes the planning a little difficult is that there's no guarantee that you're not going to reveal a whole bunch of high point value missions out in the outer planets. As you get towards the end of the game is when you really start to reveal those locations, and you're going to find out you might not have enough time left to get back there and finish those missions. Or you may have to switch your focus and focus on some of the higher point missions that may not be the direction you had originally planned to go with your technology or where you're going. So the points showing is 74. It's actually pretty low. And if we divide that by 2 and add 1, we're going to need 38 points. There's a launch window. If you look at the calendar, 1972 is a key year where you can reach all of the planets. They're kind of in an alignment, and the rule book mentions this. But as long as you're ready to launch and you leave Earth in 1972, you're going to be able to hit all of the planets all the way out to Neptune. There is a mission called the Grand Tour that actually requires you to do that. Well, basically, we just kind of get started with the gameplay here. The gameplay does change. I assume I'm going to be establishing some stations out there, so I need to make sure I can keep my astronauts alive. I'm going to need to be able to rendezvous and dock and separate spacecraft, and I'm going to need to lift quite a bit of payload off of Earth. And a lot of the setup to get the end game successful probably is going to happen in the beginning of the game here.